3:47 a.m. Strait of Hormuz. The waters of the Persian Gulf were unusually quiet. No radio traffic, no warning signs. Only 3 American destroyers sliced through the darkness. USS Mason, USS Arleigh Burke, USS Truxtun. For the crews on board, it looked like another routine freedom of navigation patrol. Until suddenly, multiple heat signatures exploded across radar screens. Not one, not 5, dozens. Less than 90 seconds later, the entire battlefield changed. Sirens echoed through steel corridors. Combat crews rushed to stations. Inside the Combat Information Center, operators watched red markers multiply across their screens. Iran had launched a coordinated surprise attack. And this wasn't a conventional strike. This was a saturation assault. Fast attack boats, Shahid drones, electronic relay aircraft, coastal missile batteries. Everything moving at once. Everything designed around one purpose: overwhelm the U.S. Navy before it could react. Along the Iranian coastline, IRGC Mosquito boats surged from concealed coastal inlets. Small, fast, hard to detect. Individually, they posed little danger. Together, they became a swarm. Above them, relay drones formed a battlefield network, passing real-time targeting information between offshore assets and inland command centers. Every American movement was being tracked. Every maneuver observed. Inside USS Mason, the Aegis combat system shifted instantly into combat posture. Across the formation, radar systems expanded into full-spectrum surveillance. USS Arleigh Burke activated auxiliary tracking systems to share targeting information across the task force. USS Truxtun prepared long-range interceptors. Moments later, spy radar arrays swept across the horizon. Then operators noticed something alarming. Targets kept multiplying. Dozens became hundreds. Hundreds became what looked like an entire moving wall. And then came the realization. This wasn't simply a missile attack. The electronic war had already begun. 3:52 a.m. The situation escalated rapidly. IRGC swarm formations accelerated toward the American destroyers from multiple directions. At the same time, waves of Shahid drones descended toward sea level, only meters above the water, designed to disappear inside radar clutter, designed to overload detection systems. The response came immediately. Mark 41 launch cells erupted open. RIM-162 ESSM missiles shot into the darkness, one after another. Their mission was clear: destroy the incoming drone wave before it reached terminal range. Seconds later, naval guns opened fire. 127mm shells tore across the water. Explosions ripped through advancing boat formations. Walls of steel crashed into the swarm. But Iran adapted quickly. Relay networks transmitted fresh targeting data. Fast attack boats suddenly changed direction. High-speed maneuvers, erratic movement, attempts to force the American ships toward coastal missile kill zones. The battle was becoming increasingly chaotic. 4:05 a.m. Then the battlefield changed again. Far above the Gulf, A-18G Growlers launched from USS Abraham Lincoln entered the combat zone. Within moments, electronic warfare systems activated. Powerful jamming signals spread across the region. Their objective wasn't destruction. It was blindness. Iranian communication links began collapsing. Relay signals disappeared. Drone formations lost synchronization. Several suddenly dropped into the sea. For the first time, American operators saw gaps forming inside the swarm. USS Truxtun immediately exploited the opportunity. RIM-174SM. 6 missiles launched toward Iranian command vessels beyond the horizon. The missiles raced across the battlefield. Even inside heavy electronic interference, their seekers maintained lock. Targets disappeared from radar screens. One after another, control of the battlefield slowly shifted. But Iran wasn't finished. For 12 a.m., coastal radar installations suddenly activated. Long-range tracking systems flooded the region with emissions. Air defense systems powered online. Heavy electronic warfare batteries launched concentrated jamming attacks against American data networks. Suddenly, the digital battlefield became unstable. Communication links degraded. Tactical information fragmented. For the first time, F-35 pilots were forced to rely on onboard sensors alone. Iran saw the opening and immediately exploited it. Hundreds of fast attack boats accelerated toward USS Mason. Multiple directions, multiple attack angles. Mission saturation. Inside the Combat Information Center, threat indicators multiplied faster than crews could process them. The defensive perimeter was shrinking. Rapidly, the pressure was becoming overwhelming. 4:18 a.m. Facing possible system overload, American commanders made a risky decision. The destroyers reduced speed, then shifted into a tight defensive formation. Mobility was sacrificed. Firepower concentration became the priority. Immediately the ships unleashed everything. USSM missiles, naval gunfire, continuous interception. Low-flying drones exploded above the waterline. Fast attack boats disappeared inside fireballs. But some threats still pushed through. Then came the final defensive layer. Phalanx CIWS systems activated. 20mm Gatling guns erupted at thousands of rounds per minute. Walls of fire formed around the destroyers. Anything entering range simply ceased to exist. The battle had become brutal, close, violent, and increasingly one-sided. 4:25 a.m. Something changed. The electronic interference finally weakened. American tactical networks stabilized. Target sharing returned. The battlefield became clear again. 4:05 a.m. Just when it seemed the American destroyers had begun slowing the Iranian assault, the battle changed completely. This was no longer about missiles, no longer about naval guns. Now it was becoming a war fought through signals, invisible, silent, and far more dangerous. Hundreds of miles away, on the deck of USS Abraham Lincoln, emergency launch procedures had already begun. Moments later, EA-18G Growlers blasted into the night sky. These weren't conventional fighters. Their mission wasn't air superiority. Their mission was battlefield control. As the aircraft approached the Strait of Hormuz, powerful electronic warfare systems activated. Within seconds, invisible waves spread across the combat zone. Massive jamming energy flooded the air. Iranian relay networks suddenly began experiencing disruptions. Communication links started flickering. Target sharing systems slowed, then collapsed. Drone formations that had been moving with perfect coordination suddenly began behaving unpredictably. Some drifted off course. Others lost altitude. Several simply plunged directly into the sea. Inside the Combat Information Center aboard USS Mason, radar operators immediately noticed something unusual. The battlefield picture was changing. Targets that had previously moved like a synchronized machine now looked disorganized, broken, confused. For the first time since the attack began, the swarm showed weakness. USS Truxtun reacted instantly. Operators identified several larger contacts positioned behind the main assault wave. These weren't attack boats. These were command vessels, floating coordination hubs responsible for controlling portions of the swarm. Without delay, launch authorization was given. Seconds later, RIM-174SM, 6 missiles erupted from vertical launch cells. The missiles accelerated into darkness at incredible speed. Above the Gulf, they raced beyond the horizon, their targets hidden, their targets unseen. Yet even inside a battlefield saturated by electronic interference, their active seekers continued searching. Seconds later, multiple radar contacts disappeared. One, then another, then another. Control nodes were being erased. And slowly, the battlefield began tilting in America's favor. But along Iran's coastline, military commanders saw exactly what was happening. Their coordinated assault was beginning to break apart, and they knew they had only one option left: escalate, immediately, because the next phase of the battle was about to become far more dangerous than the first. Integrated systems, air defense systems, long-range radar systems, electronic warfare platforms, everything was activating at once. Moments later, additional analysis confirmed their fears. Iran had just activated its hidden coastal defense network. Almost instantly, long-range tracking radars began sweeping massive sectors across the Gulf. Powerful electromagnetic pulses spread through the sky. Operators aboard American destroyers watched as search patterns expanded toward the positions of the F-35 fighters orbiting far above the engagement zone. Iran had identified the true center of the American battlefield architecture. Not the destroyers, not the Growlers, the F-35s. The stealth fighters had become the eyes of the entire operation. Their sensor fusion systems collected information from every source available: radar, infrared, electronic emissions, satellite feeds, naval tracking systems, all of it combined into one unified tactical picture. That information was then shared across the entire task force. As long as the F-35 network remained operational, American forces maintained battlefield awareness. Iran understood that, and now they intended to blind it. Suddenly, concentrated jamming signals erupted from multiple electronic warfare facilities along the coastline. Invisible waves surged outward across the region. Within seconds, interference spread through major communication channels. Link systems began experiencing instability. Signal quality dropped. Data transmission slowed. Inside the cockpits of F-35 fighters, warning indicators suddenly illuminated. Pilots immediately noticed a change. Communication links that had operated flawlessly moments earlier now experienced interruptions. Target information updated slower. Data feeds flickered. Information packets became inconsistent. For the first time during the battle, the network itself was under attack. Inside USS Mason, operators stared at their displays. Something was wrong. The seamless flow of battlefield information had become fragmented. Small delays appeared. Target refresh rates slowed. Icons shifted unexpectedly. Tiny problems at first, but tiny problems during combat become enormous problems very quickly. Across the task force, commanders immediately understood the danger. Modern warfare depended on information. Information created awareness. Awareness created survival. And right now, awareness was degrading. Far above the Gulf, F-35 pilots transitioned toward localized tracking procedures. Instead of relying entirely on network battlefield systems, aircraft began prioritizing onboard sensors. Their powerful APG-81 radar systems expanded search operations. Electro-optical targeting arrays scanned the darkness below. But localized tracking carried limitations. No single aircraft could see everything. No single radar picture matched the power of a connected network. And Iran knew exactly what this meant. The battlefield had become fragmented, confused, separated. Along hidden launch sites near the coastline, IRGC commanders saw an opportunity. Immediately, fresh orders spread through surviving swarm formations. Attack now. What remained of the Mosquito boat fleet accelerated across the water. Engines screamed at maximum output. Wave after wave surged toward American destroyers. From one direction, then another, then another. Multiple attack axes, multiple formations. Hundreds of small, fast-moving contacts suddenly accelerated simultaneously. Inside USS Mason, radar operators watched the screens transform again. Threat indicators multiplied rapidly. 1 sector, 3 sectors, 5 sectors. Soon incoming targets surrounded nearly the entire formation. Inside combat stations, stress levels immediately surged. Because this attack looked different. The earlier assault had been coordinated, structured, predictable. This looked chaotic, and chaos created problems. Fast attack boats rapidly changed speed, changed direction, changed spacing. No stable movement patterns, no predictable approach vectors. Some vessels accelerated directly toward the destroyers. Others split away. Some disappeared briefly inside radar clutter before reappearing elsewhere. The sheer volume of movement created confusion. Inside USS Arleigh Burke, operators faced an impossible balancing act. Radar systems now had competing priorities. Track incoming surface contacts. Monitor electronic threats. Observe air defense emissions. Search for missile launches. Watch aircraft positions. Everything demanded attention simultaneously, and there was only so much processing capacity available. The battlefield had become overloaded. Across the task force, Command crews felt mounting pressure. Every screen carried warnings. Every display showed movement. Every second introduced new threats. Inside USS Mason, one operator looked at the shrinking defensive perimeter surrounding the formation. His expression changed immediately, because the swarm had reached a dangerous distance. Very dangerous. The outer defensive zone was collapsing. Fast. If the attack boats penetrated much further, missile interception windows would disappear. Reaction time would shrink. Combat would become immediate, brutal, close range, and everyone inside the room understood something terrifying. This was exactly where Iran wanted them. Closer to shore, closer to missile batteries, closer to hidden launch positions, closer to danger. For the first time that night, American commanders faced a possibility they had not considered before. Not defeat. Something worse. System overload. Because no matter how advanced technology becomes, every battlefield eventually reaches a breaking point. And at 4:18 a.m., the breaking point was approaching rapidly.